Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Tomb Kings led by Renegade Moose facing off against the Sons of Sigmar, who shall be helmed by a Houseplant here at the Rift at World's Edge, and it is going to be the dreaded double boner giant. So these things, certainly I think are pretty underrated. At 12,600 HP, they can eat countless cannon shots before really running into issues, and they can trade at artillery at range, they can snipe characters, and in a potential meta where steam tanks and landships are obviously banned in most of our tournaments right now, but if they were available and were being used, the Bone Giants would be potentially a good counter against them, assuming the hitboxes of the landships were working correctly. So it is going to be double Boner Giant, backed up by 2 Necrotechs on foot, which is kind of a cool tech, right? The one weakness of Bone Giants is the fact that they're pretty awful, not awful in melee, but they're not great. They can be tar-pitted by cheap spears and really have unfortunate trades, but putting an anti-infantry character on foot next to them that buffs them up, I kind of like that. So you have the Necrotech at its feet. It's going to be giving a couple buffs here, so it gives it missile resist for artillery trades, being shot by tanks, powder, whatever. It does also have the Van Braces of the Sun, so if there are some spearmen, for example, attacking a Bone Giant, he's going to put their stats down by -24, which is going to really nullify their effectiveness against the Bone Giant. So pretty neat tech there, and on top of that, it does have the Restore as well, and Wrath of the Creator, which is going to make the Bone Giant a little bit better. I like that. That's very fun. So it's going to be Kotep as well. Kotep is going to be using the Restless Dead and spamming the spells. Is it going to be? Yeah, Curse Blades. And it looks like it is also going to be Usirian's Incantation of Vengeance. This is a good spell against heavy cavalry. It slows them and does respectable damage. And Sandstorm, we all love a little bit of Sandstorm. It's always fun to bring. So that's going to be it. Yeah, Bone Giant's going to be trying to, get some value from downtown. And for Houseplant's army, it is going to be the classic Spearman of the Shield, the iconic State Trooper, which is hands down the best. So there are going to be a bunch of those in the front, backed up by regular Spearmen and a couple Huntsmen. So Huntsmen are nice. They can creep up and shoot things like Bone Giants. And there are, Ushoptis are somewhat common in this matchup. And the fact that these things have stock means they can kind of close the distance without being noticed and sometimes ambush. And honestly, Huntsmen are just a great unit against anything big, despite the fact that they lack AP. It seems to just, get work done. Master Engineer on the Steam Tank, extremely meta. He's very, very good. The Steam Tank itself in the recent update is incredibly powerful. And on top of that, he's got the Pigeon Bombs against infantry. And I believe he shoots from a top as well. I'm not sure if the Engineer does. I know in Tabletop you can equip him. Yeah, it looks like he's got a grenade launcher. So I think you get some value from that as well. All right, that's going to be it. On the far side, we get Knights of the Blazing Sun called in as well. The Knights of, is it called Meridia or something like that? Yeah, we'll see. Sigmar, they're Sigmar's homies in this battle, but they are going to be Knights of the Blazing Sun. Really good against the Tomb Kings. Beautiful shock damage to clear out the chaff units, and good enough stats to go fisticuffs with some of the lighter constructs like Ushopti, Great Bows, and things like that. So the battle is underway, and the call-in here for the Tomb Kings is going to be Ushopti. So a very melee-focused build, not going to be using Screaming Skull catapults, which you often see against the Empire because of their efficacy at clearing out State Troopers, but it is going to be Skeletons clashing with State Troopers, and one of the few times State Troopers will probably find themselves at a bit of an advantage in a fight is against baseline Skeleton Warriors, who only have 14 melee attack on the Spears. The shielded variant's a little bit better. But now the Boner Giant does make a little bit of a misstep. He gets a little bit far up here and does get caught by the ambush of the Huntsman, which is, like I said, the advantage of these bad boys. They're sneaky, and they can move up and get some DACA on you. So the Boner Giant's going to have to pull back, but there are restores, so it shouldn't be the end of the world. On the far side, Tomb Kings grab objective number 3, and the Empire grabs objective 2 and objective 1. Houseplant going to be cruising in with the Burning Headcaster from the side. Always a good choice here, and it is going to be the dreaded Master Engineer. So he's going to be rolling nice Burning Head there. It looks like yeah, it does do a lot of damage to this unit and also tickles that other unit down to half health. So it looks like a weird one at first, but the Houseplant, he's plans and plans. It was a great one. Ended up getting 2 units there. Now on the backside, we do see the old Carrion chasing down the Huntsman. A good choice, but they're immediately going to be intercepted by the Empire Knights. The Empire Knights have pretty wet noodle DPS, so it'll still take them a minute to kill the Carrion, but with the charge bonus active, they should be able to get some good initial DPS on those. Now, in the backfield, we do see the Ushopti moving up with the Skeleton Warriors, and the Boner Giants here, you can see, getting terror routes on Spearmen, and the Necrotech there able to defend against the State Troopers and do some nice work. And now we do see a commit from the Knights of the Blazing Sun here into the fight, and they get respectable damage against Kotep here, also some against the Skeleton Horseman Archers. And they're still going to take a lot of damage, though, from the Ushopti and just kind of the sheer numbers here, as well as the Bone Giant support. And there's the Pigeon Bombs coming in from the Steam Tank, unleashing the dreaded Pigeons. And wow, really nice damage against those Skeletons. Again, a chaff unit, but that's still a ton of damage for an ability that probably should only have 3 charges, but I believe it's unlimited. So not really problematic in Dom, because by the time a Dom game's over, you're mostly it might get used like 3 or 4 times, but in land battle, I can see that being abused pretty heavily. And now as we take a macro look at the battlefield here, we can see that the Sons of Sigmar do have a pretty firm grasp on all the objectives. Objective 1 in their control, Objective 2, and Objective 3 is barely being held by the Tomb Kings. And value looking pretty damn even, though. And with that being said, it's probably a little bit better for the Tomb Kings just in a value situation because of the passive healing they get from Realm of Souls, as well as the lore passive of Kotep. And it looks like the Bone Giants have been slapped in guard mode. Yeah, so they've been slapped in guard mode, which allows them to shoot when they're being attacked, essentially, with a little bit of micro. And they've put some really good damage on this Master Engineer. That tank is running. And I know these things have a big frontal missile block chance, but that ain't going to save you from that giant shaft of the Bone Daddy here. We do also see the Bone Giants being anchored on objectives, and they are able to fight relatively well with a little bit of support. Granted, this one is currently in danger of being enveloped by spears, but the terror route going down and the Knights of the Blazing Sun pushing them away does buy the Bone Giant a little bit of precious time as the restore from the Necrotech does go down. On Objective 1, it looks like a ninja attempt from the Tomb Kings and Renegade Moose. He tried to get his little skeleton horse archers over here, but some spearmen were able to intercept. Granted, they are not shielded spearmen, so the skeleton horseman archers should be able to fire 360 there and take those bad boys down, and eventually maybe move into pressure that objective, forcing Houseplant to send something crucial over here. Tomb King's very important for them, holding on to objective number 3, and Houseplant looks like he has rallied his steam tank here, so the regrowth being used on the steam tank. Going to be healing a lot of that, and obviously, yeah, I guess Empire does have some healing too, so that needs to be reflected in the balance of powers. Houseplant does pull reasonably far ahead here, and it looks like largely because his Boner Giant is being taken down. The spears that kill the supporting units here with the Knights of the Black Rose then get a full surround of the Bone Giant. And Bone Giants do have high armor, but Knights of the Black Rose, even though they are an anti-infantry unit, they do have, good AP damage, so they are able to help chew down this Bone Giant here, and that's a pretty big loss for old Renegade Moose. This thing was at like 50-60% when we looked a minute ago, but now it's being heavily compromised. Huntsman doing good sustained DPS into it, and the Huntsman here are going to be getting some incremental value into both of the Bone Giants, which gets the Elixir of Might right now. Okay, that's kind of a fun one. And it looks like he's trying to rip that giant shaft into the Master Engineer, but not quite going to be able to get the job done. As far as this objective play on the far side here, Objective 1, we did see an attempt from the Tomb Kings to try and ninja that, but it is countered by the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and their heavy armor should be able to easily outmatch these Skeleton Horseman Archers and keep them at bay as Houseplant starts to push really far ahead in value, largely due to the fact that the Bone Giants are being taken to Pound Town right now, or at least one of them is, and the other Bone Giant is compromised by spears, and its pet Necrotech, unfortunately, is a little bit far away, but the Necrotechs do have that blinded item, which is insanely good. The Burning Vambraces and the Spearmen here are probably going to lose the fight because of it, but the Bone Giants, they really need to be staying functional in this game. Look at the ammunition on this Bone Giant. It still has a ton of ammo to use, and unfortunately, it is going to be getting karate chops here and feeling pretty bad as the steam tank continues rolling dirty and just, not causing terror against the undead, obviously, but it is going to be shooting its cannon on the go. Value on the Master Engineer is only 600 so far, so if anything, he's been more like the Toe Dragon we saw in the battle the other day in the semifinals of the tournament. It's been a bit of a distraction, right? Occupying a lot, allowing the Empire Cavalry and other assets to run pretty unimpeded. So Pigeon Bomb's going to get dropped here once again. Looks like it's going to be hitting the Skeleton Horseman, leaving that poor Necrotech all alone, and there's the dreaded Pigeon Bomb. That ability is so freaking good. It really needs to have limited charges. But yeah, very, very strong there. And you can see that the Skeleton Horsemen do get wrecked. It's kind of like a Searing Doom, basically, even a little bit better. Yeah, that damage was pretty substantial. But up on the point, we do have Skeleton Warriors and Necrotech fighting for Renegade Moose, and for Houseplant, he does have some able-bodied State Troopers of Sigmar going hard in the paint, although these ones do get terror-routed off. But the Steam Tank Commander, he's full wheels ahead, and Steam Tanks and Tabletop are actually really good. The Empire's for sure, probably bottom two factions, probably the worst faction in Warhammer the Old World and the Tabletop and Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But the Steam Tank is something on their roster that is really a gem. Demogryph Knights are like insanely good, and the Steam Tank is another thing on the Empire that I think is really underrated and really powerful. So we do see the meme tank rolling in, and in Tabletop, it counts as a heavy chariot, and when it like charges you, it has a ton of impact hits that hit really hard. So it's something that can be used at range, but if somebody approaches it, it's like just like a battering ram tank, which is reflected pretty well in this. The Steam Tank does have heavy AP and melee, and also has the bonus versus infantry. So Necrotech with these supporting heals right here on the Boner Giant. So the Boner Giant with his Mike Tyson right hook. I think he goes with the right hook when he punches. But he does get that fat restore, which is going to be a huge amount of HP, considering this thing has 12,000 base HP. The Necrotech's really able to keep this bad boy alive, and this objective, is it going to be reclaimed by the Tomb Kings? It probably will, as we do see some Skeleton Horseman Archers moving in. Now, over towards the middle objective, we do see the forces of Sigmar holding on to the point. Spearmen here fighting pretty well. Spearmen here, the Grundle's Defenders, I love it. And they're going to give physical resist to the Steam Tank as it gets nearby. You saw that little buff there. Very, very neat. But they do end up buckling here under the pressure of the Skeleton Horsemen and the Ujapti. And despite the value difference, the Tomb Kings are hanging in this game very, very well. They are able to firmly secure objective number 3. Looking at the points, it is going to be massively favoring the Houseplant right now. And Houseplant does have his elite cavalry fighting here. The Knights of the Black Rose, a really nice addition to the roster. They're like one of the units in the update that's like very balanced and fair, but also very good. I really like Knights of the Black Rose. I think they're very cool. But yep, holding on to the objective is the Empire, and the meme tank is going to be battering ramming into the back of the Ushabti and the Skeleton Horsemen, supporting the Knights of the Black Rose. Meanwhile, on this side, we do see some Skeleton Horsemen attempted to ninja the objective, but Houseplant, like a bulldog with a bone, not letting this objective go here as he does move the Knights of the Black Rose in to intercept them. And is there going to be something in the bushes? He has some Skeleton Horseman archers. I kind of like how Renegade Moose is like perpetually threatening this objective with like little annoying skirmish units. It kind of can force a disproportionate response. Uh-oh, Kotep, you're in trouble, buddy. Yeah, so the meme tank is going to be shooting while it moves, and Kotep is just being lit up by the ordnance here of the Empire. And that cannon, is that going to be a point-blank shot? The steam cannon coming in. Kotep's going to try and get away. Here comes the meme tank, and the cannonball, it flies. It looks like it was a glancing hit. I think Kotep took a hit. He gets rammed with the steel chair by the tank of the Empire. Brutal stuff, and that's going to be really rough for the Tomb Kings to come back from. And it's reflected very well in tabletop, too. If the Tomb Kings lose their highest level wizard in their army, which is their Hierophant, their whole army starts to crumble. Every single turn, you have to take crumble tests on everybody. It's pure pain when it happens. But yeah, so it's fun how it's reflected in this game as well. So the Master Engineer is just going to be sitting helping secure the middle objective, although it does actually get flipped to the Tomb Kings, but this is going to be a long game, and Houseplant's going to have a lot of time to grind, really securing his value lead and the lower leadership. I would probably wager that the Tomb Kings player is going to make an effort to resummon his lord at some point, just to try and get that leadership back, resurrect him from the pits of hell from whence he's fallen. Bone Giant here hanging on like an absolute champion, with that Necrotech really, really improving his durability. And he's got 2,000 value, much of which was shooting the steam tank, but it does force heals out, which isn't bad. And look at the stat line of these Knights of the Blazing Sun, 17 and 3 right now because of the Necrotech's debuff. The Van Braces, I think, are an insanely good item. And you've been seeing that be meta for Tomb Kings for a while, using the Chariot characters. The Necrotechs on Chariot has been meta, with the Ram bases, so they can move in and help assist in important fights. But having them on foot, I think, is still pretty good too, depending on the matchup. But yeah, they can be vulnerable on foot in some matchups, especially against like Chaos. So nice play here by Renegade Moose. He's going to be grabbing the carrion, and if he could get rid of that Jade Wizard, certainly could open up some possibilities on the Master Engineer. However, the Boner Giants are pretty much crumbling to ash, or dust, I should say. The dry as dust, indeed, is a rule for them. Tomb Kings, though, holding Objective 3, Objective 2 in the clutches of the Tomb Kings, and Objective 1 is also owned by the Tomb Kings. So the Tomb Kings are a bit of a reverse triple cap here. Houseplant's going to need to grind his way back, but I think that he's going to probably have plenty of time to do so with his heavy cavalry, although, I don't know, you never know. Is Kotep going to be making his way back? Call-ins for both players. We do see Houseplant sitting on about 700 resources, most likely going to be calling in some heavy cavalry. Renegade Moose pushing up to 1,000 supplies, which makes me think he's probably going to be calling in Kotep again to try and get his leadership so he doesn't crumble so easily. That burnt his brutal damage, man. Burning Head, one of the OG spells of the game. Very, very good here. As the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So that was a beautiful play by Houseplant. Really masterclass. You use the Burning Head to get the spears to try and dodge. So they move out of their formation. They're not braced anymore for your charge. And then you move in while their charge defense is not active. You get that big spike of damage, and then they start to crumble, right? That was a very, very clean play. And, a staple of a solid player. But on this point, we see the Necrotechs holding it down as the Carrion are feasting like the Heathen Kings of old. Houseplant going to be calling in a Great Cannon. Great Cannon going to be trying to shoot down the Ushabti, and also Knights of the Black Rose. So Knights of the Black Rose, an awesome unit. Very, very durable. Very similar to, they're like a budget version, a Walmart version of Grail Knights. And I don't mean that they're bad, it's just they're much cheaper. So I suppose that's not the best analogy, but even still, they're very similar to Grail Knights. Not Grail Knights, Grail Guardians. In the sense that they have like really good sustained fighting, and are extremely durable with high MD, but they don't have like quite the shock impact that some of their cavalry might have. On this side, though, the Empire moves in, and they are going to be able to reclaim that. So the Skeleton Horsemen going to be taken apart by the Spearman Legions, and the Tomb Kings are scrapping pretty hard, as he has actually passed Houseplant. Having that triple cap for quite some time was pretty big, but man, this hold's going to be hard. We see a lot of strong power here. The Great Cannon coming in and lending its fire support here against the Skeleton Horsemen, which are being taken to town. And over here, we see the Carrion continuing to generate huge value. If they can get a Jade Wizard off the battlefield, that's a really nice catch, getting rid of somebody's caster. But that Jade Wizard's already pretty much done his job. Healing, capping his steam tank almost is very big. So Knights of the Blazing Chat on the way in. We are probably going to be seeing this Necrotech pay the Troll Toll. He is flammable right now, so he is weak to fire by 15%. So that's going to feel pretty bad, as the Knights of the Blazing Sun will get a massive damage boost against him. So if they just decide to surround that Necrotech, he will for sure go down. And it looks like Tomb Kings are going to be making their stand in the middle, trying to take advantage of their point lead right now, which is not insignificant. It's about 100 points. Ushabti being called in. Ushabti will trade reasonably okay into Empire Cavalry that, like Knights of the Black Rose. Although Knights of the Black Rose would win that, but like Empire Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun more so. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So Usirian's going down. That is going to do some respectable damage against the Knights. The objective here in danger of flipping. It looks like Houseplant is going to be able to maneuver his spears as well as his Knights of the Black Rose over to objective 2. So that one is going to be in his clutches very, very soon. And looking at objective 3, the Tomb King's trying to hold on to this one, and I think it's just going to be too much. I think Houseplant's probably going to run away with this one. We see the Necrotech, the bastion of the Tomb King's holding, but crumbling, unfortunately. And here we see a little sneaky. It's going to be a last desperate attempt from Renegade Moose to try and get back in this game and maybe ninja a point. But Houseplant's got a pretty firm grasp on this, and he's got multiple units of heavy cavalry, Knights of the Black Rose, Blazing Suns, and Black Rose here. Yeah, so he's got 2 and 1. Of those respective units, the Grand Cannon is going to put good damage down on the Ushabti, and that's going to be GG well played. It looks like Kotzeb was resummoned, which is a good idea for leadership purposes, but at this point, Houseplant is easily going to be closing this game out, and that is it. So GG well played to both players. This is a really innovative build by Renegade Moose. The double Bone Giant, double foot Necrotect. And the fact that, Houseplant is one of the GOATs of Warhammer 3, one of the greatest players that we've seen play in Warhammer 3, right? And the fact that this build was, competitive with him and made for a close game, really, really saying something about it. And on top of that, maybe if the Bone Giants had been a little bit more cautious, sat back, and been able to use all their ammo, then suddenly it's a game that is closer. Maybe even a Tomb King's win, right? They still had so much ammo and didn't really get to unload their full payloads on the steam tank, and probably maybe could have gotten it down over a long game. So just came down to some play. Houseplant had some amazing burning heads, some really good cavalry engagements, and overall, yeah, he was able to feast. The steam tank got 2,600. That's about as much as he costs. He costs, I think, around like 20. Is it that much? Yeah, I think he's a little over like 23, 24, 25 range. It depends on what you bring. But yeah, he just about paid for himself. And the Knights of the Blazing Sun and Black Rose, always a really solid addition. I like the one cannon in there as well. Bone Giant, that second one that lived a long time, 2,300. So like if the other Bone Giant doesn't get owned early, right? If it's more cautious and sits back and gets that same 2,300 value, man, that could have been a different game. GG well played to both players. That was an awesome one, and we'll see you guys next time.